Hey there, I'm Sarah Hodges, and this is Executives Uncut, the podcast where we provide solutions for the corporate cycle of hell. Now, today we're talking about a topic that I love, which is neurophysiology at work. I'm here with Joe Masi of Collective Endeavors. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey, now, Joe, we have been friends for a very long time. So I know you won't think it's weird when I tell you that you probably know this. I've pronounced your last name wrong for a very long time. And
Yeah,
last night I'm laying in bed thinking about you, but it wasn't in the way you probably
nice,
would have
nice.
liked. Is it Macy or Mossy or Macy or Mossy? And I realized that for like the last many years, I've tried to kind of say it somewhere in between, like messy.
Yeah,
I don't know if it ever worked,
and
but
usually you just call me Joe, so I really haven't heard you have to use my last name then.
yeah, I just avoided it, but I got it right? Joe
You did.
Masi.
Yes.
Awesome.
Excellent.
So let's tell them a little bit about how we met, basically a different lifetime ago.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, we were, I believe I was at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center in New York City,
Same.
the Upper West Side, but I was
Uh-huh.
there before you,
Yes.
right? I was there probably a year or so before.
Uh-huh.
And we just kind of hit it off. We had a very similar way. You're also in the arts, or were in the
Mhm.
arts. I was. So we had a lot in common that we started talking about. I
Mhm.
loved your approach, your energy. You cared about the person first,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
the other stuff second.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we clicked on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, we did. And both of our careers have taken a parallel path, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Um, our personal lives diverged. Should we tell them we almost started dating?
we did almost start dating. Yeah,
Which is
according
pretty
to you, we
funny.
did date, but
No, we didn't really. It was like
we went on a couple of
we went on a couple of
outings.
pseudo dates, outings. They were dates, Joe.
They were
We're gonna
dates. You're
argue
right.
about this
But
for life.
I didn't want to call it that, but that's what they were.
Commitment issues. I'm
I
just
know, totally.
kidding.
I've come a
Right.
long way since then.
Good. Me too. We're like I'm married with a kid now, so it's too late for you.
Yeah, yeah,
Just kidding. So all right, let's talk a little bit about the neuro. So you introduced to me your neuro program back then actually. And now you've adapted it for organizations. So can you tell me a little bit more about how you've adapted the program that you showed me for organizations and just explain to our audience a little bit more about what that's all about?
sure. First of all, you were so courageous to partake in that and not really know what you were getting yourself into. Um, so it is really deep work. And, my work as a corporate coach, I entered as more of a traditional coach. I work as a presentation training coach. So I do communication training, presentation training, getting teams ready for their big high pressure pitches, having people show up so that they can be themselves and show up authentically and really connect with people. So I came in a very traditional and a bit more digestible and palatable in the corporate world.
Yeah.
So the work that I do that I'm beginning to sneak more in, depending on the culture of an organization. An
Sure.
organization may say, and I've had organizations say, oh, no, bring us the full-blown thing. We want to take this as far as we can go with it. And others, just based on kind of feeling them out, like, you know what, let's just do this in a more subtle way. But
Yeah.
what it really gets at the heart of, it's called the neuromuscular emotional workout. And so it addresses all of that. Our behavior is based in our neurology. It's how we're patterned. And we show up and we will continue to behave in very specific ways, in consistent and predictable ways. Over time, we know this person is going to behave this way. This is how it's going to happen. And this is all based on their patterning.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
right? And some
Yeah.
patterns, they work really well. And some
Hmm.
patterns don't. And some patterns work in one environment and then they don't work in another environment as well. So this system that I created is really designed to repattern, rewire
Yeah.
in whatever area you need to. And it's done through addressing physicality,
Yeah.
because that's where our patterning is most deeply ingrained. I mean, not to get too deep into this, but we know that trauma is stored into the body, stored in the body.
Mhm.
And so if we take less emotional events and experiences, we can also say they're also stored in the body.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I think there's this idea that only, very deep problematic trauma is stored, but it's stored there along with everything else,
That's right.
and I think it's really cool what you're doing because, as coaches, we often try to shift cultures or shift our relationships with ourselves and rewire 100% through thought, through
Yeah.
shifts, through changes in thought. But you can kind of hack the body and get a much faster, more impactful result through the work that you do, which was the experience that I had. But what I'd love to hear a little bit is tell us, so basically there's kind of a spectrum of ways in which you can offer this type of training. So like what are the two extremes look like, when you're just dipping your toes in versus all the way?
Dipping the toes in, I think the best way to explain that. Similarly, I know if you're not familiar, I know you are familiar with Amy Cuddy's work, and she does power pose, right? So I have, yes, the Wonder Woman, this one, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there are exercises that we do, ways to integrate how you show up physically, kind of like executive presence. How do you show up physically, and how that
Yeah.
changes your mindset, how that changes your energy, then you show up, right? If just as a simple example, if I sit back in my chair and do this, right, it affects how I feel. It affects how I think. It affects my energy. Now we know people do this in meetings and they hang back and they're not really contributing well to the creative, innovative spirit of a meeting. Whereas if I sit up here and I am upright and I am out front, immediately you can see it changes my energy. So I take people through that awareness. We take a look at, all right,
Mm.
what is your kind of um, average resonant energy?
Yeah.
Is it serving you? Is it not serving you? If it's serving you, great. If it's not, let's see how we can tweak that so you're coming a bit more to life when you need to. And so I'll take people through very simple, fun exercises. That's kind of like dipping your toe. The
Nice.
full blown is it's scalable. So we could do it in 2 hours, like you and I didn't. I think we did it about 2 hours, but that was also one-on-one. So this is
Yeah.
built for groups of up to probably 12 to 15 max,
Right.
where this can be a 2-day retreat. And it
Cool.
goes deep. And it's the full-blown experience is going into meditative states, movement, expansive movement with very particular music that's emotionally evocative, because what we start to do is bubble up whatever it is that's stored underneath that we keep suppressing, that keeps getting in our way, that
Mm.
keeps us from showing up fully in our fullness, in our full glory. We start to loosen that stuff up, and people start to come to life in a way that they may have never done before. and
Yes.
and and they notice the resistance to it. And so once we start to identify the resistance physically, as we did, right, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about what that was
Oh
like.
yeah.
Now, based on just my training, I can see physically where they want to hide, because we
Mm.
pattern in a way that keeps us safe. We actually pattern to keep emotion at bay.
Yeah.
So when we start to move physically against that pattern, those emotions, along with the evocative music, start to come up.
Yes. It was a very profound experience that stuck with me because I think it's as you explain it, it's one of those things that's very experiential. Until you experience it, it's hard to comprehend, okay, how can this benefit me? What does that feel like? But the experience for me was yeah, you brought me in. I had no idea what I was getting into. I was just gonna try it out. And there was this weird music, and you had me be like, oh, like all sorts of weird vocalizations, but it was this release, right? But my hang up back then, because a lot of my viewers know I've lost 90 pounds. But when you lose 90 pounds, your body doesn't look the way it did before you gained 90 pounds, right? And I had a lot of hang ups still physically, specifically around my upper arms. And Joe could tell when I was, not allowing myself to expand fully and let them, to use them as though they were just a normal part of my body. I was holding them in. I was kind of holding back, I
Hiding.
was yeah, I was hiding. Exactly. Thank you. And the work you did with me, it was almost like that 2 hours went by so fast, and we did all of this crazy movement where I used a lot of them and I connected and expanded the place where I was trying to hide. And I
Mhm.
remember I have too many toilet stories, but I woke up a couple of days later, like at 5 a.m. to go pee. And I had this pattern where I would just notice how like fat my arms felt or whatever. And
Yeah.
I noticed myself doing it and I didn't need to like attack them. I just didn't need to. It's like it
Isn't that amazing?
repatterned something. Yeah, and it was at a moment where like because I was kind of half awake, half asleep, it was at a moment where I didn't really have the awareness to like, okay,
Mm.
cognitively stop myself and then right. And I think that as coaches who are working solely with the mind, we're limited because people can't always cognitively stop themselves to rewire, but this does it in a deeper, more immediate way because you're doing it in reverse, right? You're
That's right.
retraining the physiology instead of training the brain to retrain the physiology.
Right.
So it's super cool, and it makes me stand back and wonder, why do you think that, you know, even okay, a more scalable version of that, because not everyone's ready to go that deep. It would be pretty cool if they did. But why do you think that organizations aren't more open to this? That this isn't more of a normalized practice?
I think it's a great question. And just to, and I'll put this together, but
Sure.
we don't invite emotion to the workplace,
Mm.
right? At least we haven't. But if you look at the whole movement now, especially with Brene Brown's work, Simon Sinek's work, amongst others, that are really understanding the power and the necessity for vulnerability and empathy in the workplace, and how it's measurable. It increases productivity. It
Yeah.
increases retention. People want to stay. They'll work for less, knowing that they feel safe, psychologically safe in an environment. And so
Yes.
now, and I love it, the shift is organizations are being forced to address the psychological safety, the emotional safety that's present at work. When we look at diversity training and inclusion, like we're being forced, thank God, to treat people as humans,
Yes.
not as
Oh
a
my God.
resource,
Or a
you
robot.
know, right?
Or an
Or
algorithm.
right, or an output, you
Yeah.
know, mechanism. And so now I think that was the challenge, and this is what I'm looking to invite more in. And I thank you so much for having me on this to share this.
Yeah.
Is bringing more of that emotional element. How do we do? I have to say, we did it one-on-one, and I've done it in small groups, but I've done it in a large group. And when I did it in my first large group, I had no idea how it was going to affect the group. And what was most powerful, and I think this is true for a lot of effective offsites, is that people shared such tremendous vulnerability and things that maybe they haven't even shared with their best friends.
Yeah.
And they were so supportive of each other. And the way that, I have to facilitate it, it's to keep it safe. By the time they were done, and this one was after 2 hours, they were like best friends. They were sharing information with each other. They were going out afterwards. They said that the work floor that they were all working on, when they stepped out on it, it actually looked different because of the energy. It was so much safer and people felt so much more connected. They worked well together. They were sharing more information, like their secrets of like why they're so good at what they do. Everything became transparent and open, and I did not expect that. My intention was to help people find the greatest amount of emotional and physical freedom that they could, and get a
Right.
pretty good workout in the midst.
Yeah.
But the byproduct of the team cohesion, the immediacy of it blew me away.
I can totally understand because of the immediate shift that I felt in relationship to myself, right? I can absolutely understand how this practice could help them both heal the relationship with themselves and then in tandem with each other. So, I have my program, the Hodges Leadership Institute, and it's designed to facilitate social safety, but it does it through shifts in mindset over the course of many, many months. But yours is like, it's like you just shake it up, right? And like
No,
step it back
is.
out and it
It's,
changes. It's
thank
cool.
you for saying that. And it is. It's like, if you want to get there quick, it ain't going to be easy, but it's going to happen. And it's really powerful. And you know what I would love if you wouldn't mind, because I know this scares people, can you share, and I love that you went through this so you can really speak on it. Did you feel safe?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it was awkward at first. But I think that once I remember the moment when you had me sit down on the floor and I was kind of like huddled in and you walked me through, I think this was a few years ago. So I think you walked me through like almost like a meditation, or
Visualization.
yeah, visualization. And you had me put my hands on my feet and honor my feet. And I just started sobbing. Right. And I think that like that threshold, crossing that threshold and letting it come out and then knowing that it was okay and it
Yeah.
was about healing that really helped me then in your response, right, too. And like I just knew that I was safe and it was okay to process that here and to shift that now and to start loving my body and recognizing it. And again, it doesn't have to be for just like body issues, right?
Right.
Like that was my personal thing. It could be for like fears of failure. It could any way in which someone is getting in their own way.
Yeah.
You'll see it held in the body, and then they can express it and move through it. And you're rewiring. I think that's the really really important thing here. You are physiologically rewiring yourself to let that go.
Yeah. I remember when we did that, and there is a part of it where and it may sound, and I just know it sounds, what? You did what with feet? Huh? How are feet have anything to do with corporate what? Huh? But the thing that we walk around with and we bring everywhere we go is our body.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. You
and
bring your
if we're
body to
not,
work.
and if we're not honoring it and like respecting it for the fact that it actually is the thing that enables us to get to work and to work well and at a high performance, if we don't honor that, well, eventually, just like anything else we don't honor, it's going to start to fail you. So it's part of the process. How do you honor this body that helps you to perform?
Yeah.
And people get emotional because they're like, oh my God, I've
They haven't connected.
been talking, I talk awfully about my body. I treat myself like I should be ashamed of my body. How can you fully come to life when the thing that you're living in, you're ashamed of?
Totally.
So,
110%.
so
And
this
it's
takes
a
you through
cultural
that.
norm, right? It's a
Yes,
cultural norm to like, oh, talk about our weight like we talk about the weather, or to, put all of our value on our appearance
yes,
instead of acknowledging what your body does for you,
yes,
Like and to think that your brain only lives in your brain and you forget that you have this entire neurological network through the rest of your physical body, and it's like they work in tandem, right?
yeah,
They're kind of one and the same.
totally. And
So,
I'm such a big proponent of the power of words and self-talk. Like, I know
oh,
you think
totally.
you're kidding, but you start to kid enough about your body and it doesn't think you're kidding anymore. It's going
Mhm.
to absorb that. And so, but that goes, again, this is just one level of what we address. Then it's like, okay, emotion has come up. Now I'm not going to leave you out there emotional. Now we're going to process it. We're going to talk about it. How many of us know how to talk about our emotions well?
Mhm.
I don't think so. And then there's partner exercises where you get to share your experience with another human being and they share yours. And it connects us in a way, in this controlled and intense environment that we don't get to do very often, but it's really miraculous and refreshing.
Yeah.
I worked with a group of, you got me started.
Go. Yeah.
But
Let's hear
this
it.
is wild. This is wild. I worked with a group of couples, and there was one exercise, which I don't want to give away now, but there's one exercise, and after they were done, and they've been married for about 20 years, they said, I haven't looked at you that way in over 20 years. I have not seen you like that. Like, seen you, not the way you behaved, but actually been with you in that way since we met. And it happens, the hustle and bustle of life. So what happens when we start to see our employees in a more genuine human way?
Right.
You know?
Real connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like, I know so many executives are like, okay, they're focused on the bottom line often, right? And but this helps with the bottom line so much because people have think sync. So when they create ideas, it happens much faster. They're not risk averse, so they don't mind prototyping and failing, right?
Totally.
Like,
they feel safer to take risks.
Exactly. They feel more empowered in general, and so their threshold for risk is higher in a good way, right?
Yes.
So it's so awesome. But like, we could geek out on this all day long.
Totally.
I think that it's really important though to make sure that our audience walks away with like, all right, well, how can they get started in some practice, right? That's beneficial to them with their body in some way. What do you recommend?
Okay, so you want to give a couple tips?
Yeah. Why don't we do the 3 tips?
Okay, cool. So this is a very basic and simple exercise. I usually prompt people through it, but it's a simple body scan. And what that is you can do it sitting down, you can do it laying down, you can do it anywhere. You could do it on the bus. It's hard to do while you're driving. You do need to close your eyes. But you just find a space, and it takes anywhere. You can do this for 12 minutes. You could do it for 2 minutes. But the idea is, as you close your eyes, you begin checking into your physical body, starting with your feet and working your way up to your lower legs, to your thighs, to your hips, to your stomach, belly, to your chest, to your shoulders, your arms, your neck, your face, your jaw. And all you start to do is identify, is there tension in that area? And you don't try to do anything, you just notice. Notice, and you try to just let it go. Then you move up to the next area. Notice, let it go. Thighs, notice tension, let it go, all the way through up to the top of your head. And what that does is it starts to just create mindfulness on what is the state of your body? Where are you holding tension? And you get to start to release it. It's a great way to start a meeting, start your day at work. And it's also a great thing to do before you come home, because we bring so much stress from work. And it's like, whoa, wow, I had no idea I was carrying that. I'm so glad I was able to just kind of breathe through that, let it go. So that's
just you talking about that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way. I'm sure other people listening to this are like, oh man, I already feel more relaxed. Just talking through it, you can feel the benefit, right?
Yes,
it's awesome.
Totally. It's so powerful, and it doesn't take much time. Let's see. Another tip that I would recommend is, and this is kind of similar, but in this, with the body scan that I just gave you, is more of like, okay, set time aside. For this, if you can just be more mindful throughout the day.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is when you do that first little body scan, it's amazing. It starts to bleed into your day. Like, oh, wow, I'm really tense there. Just start to be more mindful of how you're holding your body and how it's affecting you. just that mindfulness will start to shift and change things on how you show up energetically and how you and physically.
Totally.
And these are really simple, subtle things. Lastly, and I think Amy Cuddy's work is super powerful. The power pose. Like if you need to change, and I use her as a quick reference. There's a crossover between what she talks about and what I do. But it's a great way to just remind yourself of the power of your physical body. So you can either go into a private area and take your Wonder Woman pose, or your hands straight up, your head up, and really expand, because it's about taking up space. And what she found in the studies that she did, when you take up more space, it actually raises testosterone. And testosterone is the hormone that makes us feel more present and more confident. Now, the opposite is true. When you shrink, cortisol goes up, which is the hormone that makes us feel unsafe, stressed out when it's in overload. So play with presence, play with how much space you take up, and just play with that before a meeting, before an interview.
Awesome.
And watch how your body can shift your mental and energetic states.
Yes. These are so awesome, and they're so easy to incorporate into your daily life. And my hope is that the more that people in general start using these tactics, the more that we normalize, bringing
Totally.
body work to work, because the benefits are awesome. Like we've kind of started to normalize coaching, right? So we're there. But if we normalize bringing body work in, that's pretty cool. That's
and
like
Sarah,
360
I just love what you are all about in your work, which is bringing the individuality, bringing the authenticity to the corporate world. Because I think little by little, we're seeing the bottom line value to it, but also the overall health benefits and that work can be also a place to show up and play in. And it actually helps us work better and perform better. So I love that it's awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll take that affirmation. Yeah, we bring our whole selves to work, right? So it's exhausting to try to fake it and live according to other people's expectations all the time. We might as well just show up as who we are, right? And
absolutely
acknowledge that. So, we have, based on what you're saying, like we have our coaching challenge for this week. And to dial it back even a little bit more to make it really, really easy, if you're feeling stressed, okay, and you can't talk your way through it, because usually we try to talk our way through it, try instead to tune into the physical sensations of your body and just notice the tension. Don't try to change it. Don't try to do anything different. Just tune in and notice. And that in and of itself can soothe the stress that you're experiencing. How does that sound, Joe?
So good.
You're the expert.
So good and so true.
Yes, thank you so much for your amazing tips. And tell us, where can our viewers find you?
You can check me out at collectiveendeavors.com. That is my website, the name of my company. I'm all about creating collective partnerships and creating custom-made programs for your organizations. I don't like to bring in, this is how it has to work, like even the neuromuscular emotional workout. It's so custom tailored, and we can make it work for your company, your culture. And also on LinkedIn at Joseph Masi. Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. Everyone run out and hire Joe to come do this workshop for your organization. It doesn't hurt that he's 6'5" and looks like Clark Kent. True.
Awesome.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you everyone else for tuning in to this episode of Executives Uncut. If you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe, share with your friends, anyone who could benefit. You can find us pretty much everywhere you search for us, or visit hodgescoaching.com for new episodes, at Hodges Coaching on social media. All right, that's it for this week. I'm Sarah Hodges, and I'll see you next week.